Have you ever heard a speech that made you feel like you could change the world? Maybe you listened to someone who inspired you to do something big. Well, today I want to talk about some of the most famous leaders in the world. Leaders who have inspired millions of people and made a real difference in history. When we think about leadership, we often imagine powerful people with big titles, like presidents, CEOs, or world leaders. But leadership is not just about having a title. Leadership is about making an impact, standing up for what is right, and inspiring others to follow your example. Let me ask you, what makes someone a great leader? Is it their ability to speak? Their ability to act? Or is it their courage to fight for change, even when it's hard? One of the most famous leaders of our time is Malala Yousafzai. She's just one example of how even young people can make a huge difference in the world. Malala was born in Pakistan, and at a very young age, she became an advocate for girls' education. When Malala was 15, the Taliban, a dangerous group in Pakistan, tried to stop her from speaking out. They shot her in the head. But do you know what she did? She survived, and instead of being scared, she became even more determined. She didn't stop fighting for girls to go to school. In 2014, Malala became the youngest person ever to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Malala's story teaches us an important lesson. No matter how young or how small we may feel, we all have the power to change the world. Malala said, "One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world." These words show that change doesn't need to come from the top. It can come from anyone, anywhere. Even a single person can create ripples that touch millions of lives. Now let's think about another great leader, Martin Luther King Jr. In the United States, Martin Luther King Jr. is known for his peaceful fight against racial segregation and discrimination. In the 1950s and 1960s, many African Americans were treated unfairly. They were not allowed to go to the same schools, eat at the same restaurants, or use the same bathrooms as white people. Martin Luther King Jr. believed that this was wrong, and he fought for change. But he didn't use violence to make his point. Instead, he organized peaceful protests and gave powerful speeches. His most famous speech, "I Have a Dream," still inspires millions of people today. In it, he spoke about his vision for a world where all people are judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. King's leadership shows us the power of peaceful resistance. He believed that love and understanding could overcome hate and fear. His legacy reminds us that we don't need to fight with anger or violence to make change. We can fight with love, kindness, and the courage to stand up for what is right. But you might be asking, what do these leaders have in common? Well, let's look closer. Both Malala and Martin Luther King Jr. fought for a better world. They didn't back down in the face of danger. They stood up for their beliefs, even when others told them to be quiet or go away. And they both inspired others to follow their example. Leaders like Malala and Martin Luther King Jr. show us that leadership is about standing up for what is right, even when it's hard. It's about believing in yourself, having the courage to make your voice heard, and never giving up, even when the road is tough. These leaders didn't wait for the world to change. They took action, and they made the world a better place. But leadership is not just for famous people. You don't need to be a Nobel Peace Prize winner or a famous speaker to be a leader. In fact, leadership is all around us. It's in our schools, our communities, and even in our own homes. Think about the leaders you know. Maybe it's a teacher who encourages you to keep going, even when you want to quit. Maybe it's a friend who stands by you when everyone else is too afraid to speak up. Leadership is about making a positive difference, no matter how big or small. So, what can we learn from Malala and Martin Luther King Jr. that we can use in our own lives? First, we can learn to be brave. It's not always easy to stand up for what is right, especially when everyone around us is doing the opposite. But true leaders are brave, even when they are afraid. Second, we can learn the power of words. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech is remembered because of the powerful words he spoke. Words can inspire, encourage, and change the way people think. Malala used her words to fight for education for girls all over the world. Words are powerful tools, and we all have the ability to use them to make a difference. Lastly, we can learn to never give up. Both Malala and Martin Luther King Jr. faced terrible challenges, but they never gave up. They kept fighting for what they believed in, and that's why they are remembered as great leaders. When things get hard in our lives, we should remember that leadership means not giving up, even when the going gets tough. Think about it. Who do you look up to as a leader? What qualities do they have? Maybe they inspire you with their words, their actions, or their kindness. What can you learn from them to become a better leader yourself? To end, I want to leave you with a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. "The time is always right to do what is right." This means that there is never a wrong time to stand up for what you believe in. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. The time to make a difference is now. You, too, can be a leader, just like Malala and Martin Luther King Jr. And who knows? Maybe someday, people will look up to you for the change you made in the world. Thank you.